I'm having some of my great thoughts, you know.
I mean, often great thoughts do come over sandwiches in places like this, so...
True. And this garden has a bit of magic to it.
Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of Sandwich with a View.
With me, Roisin.
I am getting sun-dried tomato oil all over me.
So am I. I'm getting greasy old hands.
So this is your first season here, first sort of growing season.
This is my second month. So I found out, I mean, ideally I would have been in September, but I didn't know about the garden. Found it on a blog post from 2016. I was like, I would like some land. Tried to look for, thought, you know, I'd been in a wall garden 2 years ago. Thought, let's look for a wall garden in Newcastle or Northumberland. Not many of them about. Found this blog post, wrote them a little email, said, hey, fancy someone, blue tits, fancy someone hanging out in your garden? They said yes. Bada bing, bada boom, baby.
Beautiful. And I mean, can't believe the difference when I first started seeing posts about it when you came in, and now it's already coming with life. And how's it been this year? I know it's been a bit of a difficult year weather-wise, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, so as a gal who researches climate change adaptation and whether cut flowers can survive in a 2-degree warming world, this has been a real testament to all the research I've just done. Drought has been crazy this year. It's not been easy trying to set off lots of seeds in just the kind of crazy level of heat. And the problem is if the heat's too high, the seeds aren't going to germinate, or when you do get seedlings, they're under stress, too much stress, and you're not going to get a good flower from them. So it's been tough. And also, we have got water here, but I'm really passionate about trying to reserve water. So I've got a big bowser, which I'm collecting water from, which is half empty now because, you know...
Well, there's been some videos of obviously I'm from Mid Wales, been some videos from there where the reservoirs are like low, which considering it's May is deeply troubling. And I do point this in the people, you know, the people who sort of say, oh, climate change is dramatic, all of this, it's not real. I'm like, you have to look at this. And you're always met with people who say, well, it's nothing like the summer of 76 or whatever summer was.
But it is like the summer of 76. It's consistently, and that's the problem. It's like up and down, up and down.
And I think what I've been trying to tell to people is you remember the summer of 76 because it was extraordinary, or I think it was 76, you know, in the 70s. And what we've seen is in the last sort of 4 or 5 years is very similar weather pretty much every year, or extreme weather, where I think people think of extreme weather as just meaning storms or hurricanes. But what we had last year was sort of 6-7 months with no sunny, it was just rain. Yeah. The ground was sodden, waterlogged, things. Big slug vibes. Yeah. And then literally 2 months now, we haven't had a drop of rain, or nothing of significance anyway. No. And I think that's why I try to get people to realise is extreme weather doesn't just mean storms. It's these periods. And
it's differences in weather as well. So like when 2 years ago, when I started this scholarship to research climate adaptation, the reason that I did that was because we were getting crazy storms over the November to February period, and it wiped out our polytunnel growing infrastructure. We had 2 60-foot polytunnels, and it's almost destroyed both of them. And then we had insane heat, so we had like 38 degrees or whatever it was in the summer. And then we also had like crazy rains, and the land, the soil can't tolerate it, but your plants can't because they're constantly under stress. So it is, you've got to predict the unpredictable, and that's an impossible job, so you've just got to prepare for it in some way.
Well, it's resilience, isn't it? It all comes down to, and I think at the end of the day, it's soil, air and water, really, when you really break it down to the three things, soil, air and water. And I think air, I'll be honest, is something I'm not too familiar with, but like soil and water are two things that have been under threat, I think, from, you know, intensive farming, from irresponsible development. You know, I work closely with farmers and with developers, so I'm not against either of those things. It's just we've been pushing so hard on intensification that we've lost healthy soils in most places. Our water, we've forced it to run through a system as quickly as possible. Now we're realising, like actually I think the better thing is slowing the water, holding it in the soil.
Re-wiggle those rivers.
Re-wiggle those rivers. You know, I really love a re-wiggling.
We love a re-wiggling.
But you mentioned research there. What was the topic of your research and why did you decide to do it?
I had been working at the RSPB in climate change kind of policy work and project management stuff, and had started to really focusing on climate change adaptation, which no one was outside of very intense policy circles was really talking about. And we always focus on mitigation, which is reduction of emissions, and not thinking about, okay, well, that world is hurtling towards us, what are we going to do to prepare? And then I started flower farming with my mum running Verde Flower Co. And I was like, goodness me, I don't think my business is sustainable. And we're chemical free. We do whatever we can for the soil. We were already doing lots of rewildy, naturey bits, but it still wasn't enough to prepare ourselves and our land. And I thought, if I want a business in 10 years' time, I've got to do something about it. So applied for a Nuffield farming scholarship. And it was amazing. It took me around the world. So I did New Zealand, Kenya, which is 40% of the roses in the UK are grown in Kenya, and one of our biggest competitors, the Netherlands, who are like the powerhouse of floral production. And I was trying to ask whether the British cut flower industry, which is very small, is prepared for climate change. And it felt very niche. It feels very luxury because I'm growing flowers. Like, you don't need flowers. But at the same time, there are amazing co-benefits that can be had. This garden is a testament to that. So it was really about trying to find points of resilience. And I thought I was going to go into it coming out with a long list of environmental actions you could take as a grower, as a farmer, as a horticulturist. And actually, I didn't do that. I came out and found that we're deeply unprepared, but also that there's a big social impact and community impact of tools that we need to use to become more resilient.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked you this question before, and I think it's important to answer, but why flowers? Why cut flowers? I think, we've spoken about kind of soils are under pressure, water under pressure, and then people's instant thing is food production.
Yeah.
Where do you see, and you've sort of mentioned co-benefits, but where do you see flowers as more of maybe a luxury item? Where do they sit within that? And how do you see them forming that bigger landscape of resilience within land production, if you want, in general?
So I don't think there's anything wrong with luxury products like flowers. And I got this question in my Nuffield Scholarship interview, and it was challenging, but ultimately there are huge lessons to be learned from flower production. About climate change adaptation. It's just another example of horticulture, except that we're not consuming it. The flip side to that is because we're not consuming it, we're not thinking about, we're not paying that much attention to what goes into flower production.
Right.
I mean, around the world, that tends to be exceptionally
intensive,
exceptionally intensive, and high chemical usage, high water volume, really bad impact on the environment. And so in those environments, it's actually doing a huge detriment to the land and to often the communities in which they're growing. So sure, it's a luxury product, but I fully believe when it comes to land management in the UK, we need to think about a mosaic of different environments and different production systems. Horticulture is not really focused on we haven't even got a horticulture strategy. No. That's completely scrapped. And so we're not getting any focus on it at the moment. But in order to have resilient food systems in the UK, where we're not heavily reliant on importing it all the time, particularly during moments where we might have COVID, for example, or war, we need to build better systems. And so putting flowers into the mix, increasing pollinators, increasing the environment, kind of the good things in our environment, only has co-benefits for farming. And so it's about learning from what we have in farming and in flowers and trying to replicate that elsewhere to make our farming system more resilient.
Oh, what's in the branch there?
I've got my glasses on.
There.
Oh, goldfinch?
Yeah, I think so.
There are a lovely pair of goldfinches and a couple of woodpeckers in here. And a barn owl.
And a barn owl. Well, that's what I was actually going to ask you next, is actually about...
Segue?
It's a little segue for a sandwich. Maybe we'll have a bite of a sandwich first.
Segue and sandwich?
I think best when I've had something to eat.
You're not you.
No.
When you haven't had a sandwich.
What I was going to ask you, actually, because you were talking about how co-benefits for farming stuff, and I was going to say that I think even having been here only for an hour or so, the amount of insect life here,
crazy, isn't it?
the amount of bird life that's here. Hello.
Sorry, where are you going?
He loves the insects.
Is that insects? Do you want some? No, you're not stealing a sandwich. Sorry, Joe. How badly behaved is my borzoi?
Not at all.
You will wait there. Thank you. Carry on. So lots of insect life.
No, yes. I was going to say, you were talking a little bit about the biodiversity benefits. Obviously, both of us are nature nerds.
Oh, yeah,
and,
baby.
that's how we met. And having, like I said, just being here for a few hours or something, just the amount of insect life, and obviously then the bird life, and I'm assuming the the rodent life, because
quite a lot of
also we
rodents.
have seen a barn owl,
Yeah.
we've seen various birds of prey flying
It's
over.
vole central around here.
Central. So I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is that this, and like you said, it's part of a mosaic of land management, that these will obviously be a source, hopefully, of pollination for the surrounding area. It'd be really good if we could track the bees to see where they're heading. So what is your plan for this garden, but more broadly? I know you're big on sort of campaigning and policy, but more broadly for flower farming and horticulture in the UK, what's your vision?
The plan for right here is that I want to maximise whatever I can. I want to boost the perennials, because perennials deal better with the erratic changes to climate. So perennials are things that come back time and time again. I want to have annuals, but I want to work out what annuals are going to grow well here and then really do well at it. And I want to grow on, at the moment, I'm just utilising a little bit of that space, get a polytunnel up this year, start utilising this space over here. So that'll probably be the best part of 2 acres.
Yeah.
Try and make 2.2 acres work for me as best as I possibly can, but also do it in a way that is fantastic for nature. And it's super easy for a farmer to sit there and go, oh my God, what's she waffling on about? She's only got 2.2 acres. Of course she doesn't mind if there are voles. I do mind if there are voles, because my luxury crop gets high, comparatively does well, high stem, but those stems have to be good, otherwise the florists aren't going to buy them. So I want to produce high quality stuff, but I want to do it in a way that benefits nature as well. Or at least there are pockets of space that really work for nature, already chemical free, all those kind of things. In terms of then what that looks like on a, let's say, a national level, I really want to both promote the fact that you can do it, alongside nature, and there are lots of amazing growers who do, but also try and showcase the economic value of that to the local community and to the wider, national space. Because at the moment, no one cares about cut flowers in a government space. DEFRA don't care about them. They don't care about horticulture at the moment, it feels like. And so how do we translate what we're doing here on the ground, which is good stuff for nature, not getting any payments for it, we're just doing it because we care about it, and then take that to a national space and say, okay, this is the benefit. How do we map that onto like a mosaic of farming and food and luxury crop production in the UK to make us more sustainable, less reliant on, wider imports, and just shout about the benefit. The dream for me, going back from the national to the local, I want to be able to hire people. I want to be able to train people up, and I want them to be able to have a route into horticulture. Because right now, I call myself a floral nepo baby, because my mum has a really amazing grasp of nature and flowers and how to grow. I learned everything I did from her, and then I stole the business from her. Yeah. So if I wasn't a floral, classic me, stealing. And so as a floral nepo baby, I need to do my bit to bring other people into horticulture.
I mean, at this point, we should give a massive shout out to your mum
as
an absolute icon, a legend. If we could have her here, maybe in the future we'll have a sandwich with a view with Kaz.
And her a crazy large
Love
dog.
wild swimming, love it. So big shout out. And but you've learned a lot from her. I wouldn't, yes, there was maybe a bit of nepo baby, but you've also put in a lot of work to get here, and I think that's important to recognise as well. So it's all right. I'm always here to be. Cheers. I mean, on that note, maybe it is time to finish our sandwiches, because I've got always got more questions to ask you, but I think this is meant to be just a flavour of of sort of the topics and that people can reach out to you. I know you're very active on social media and things. People can ask you questions, because there might be people who have a small patch of land, maybe not 2.2 acres, but I think there's a lot to learn even about your garden and how you can make it, not that it's a business, but you've been telling me about the way you've been planting things next to each other. Don't plant this next to here. When do you plant, I think, is a big question.
When do you cut your flowers, all those things.
And I think also you've obviously learnt a lot, and from your mum, from just your experience, about, sometimes you buy a seed packet and it says sow in May. Yeah.
But not in the northeast of England, babes.
But or whatever it says, sow in April. But what we're realising is that May and April aren't different. What they...
From the south, even from the south to the north.
And every year.
And every single year looks different.
I think it's also, how do we plant, seeds back in tune with nature rather than relying on a calendar? How do we actually go, the soil is these sorts of things that farmers and growers years ago just knew.
Let's not lose that knowledge.
They just knew, they didn't need to be taught, or they were taught, but not in like a theoretical. It was like out on the land, they know, you know, even little sayings. What is it? I always get confused, but it's like, if you get oak before ash, you're in for a splash.
Yes.
If
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
ash before oak, you're in for a soak,
soak,
or whatever,
yeah.
something like that. You know, little sayings like that, and these old wives' tales that hold a lot of truth
Oh my God,
sometimes,
do
and
they
I
hold
think
truth?
we've
No,
lost.
they really do hold
Yeah.
truth. And even with climate, they still hold truth.
True.
And we need to lean back into those fountains of knowledge before we lose them all. That's
Yeah.
the scary thing.
Because I, you know, obviously work quite a bit on sort of policy and international policy, and we talk a lot about traditional indigenous knowledge, and I think we forget that there is a lot of that in the UK.
Oh my God,
I
yeah.
think we talk about it very much as indigenous
Welsh
knowledge
is a perfect example
yeah,
of that.
you know, and we talk about it in like the international sense, but that knowledge of the land
Oh my God.
is in this country as well, and we've maybe not we've lost it yet. We are losing it, but I still think there's a lot of it there. And you know, Welsh. You mentioned Welsh. Obviously, I'm a proud Welshman. There's a lot in the language of Welsh about when the flowers started to come up. When do where
And
should
in
the flowers
nature,
be growing?
the
Nature.
way that things like you can track through seasons where things are, or what habitat
Yeah.
certain birds or mammals might be in, because of how it's
Yeah.
you know phrased in the Welsh language.
I'll let you do one sentence,
One
dead to camera,
sentence?
please.
What do you want my sentence
Your
about?
sentence about what your hope for the future for nature in the UK.
I'm incredibly hopeful about the future of nature in the UK, which might sound crazy, but I get to work at UK Youth for Nature with some of the most incredible young people, yourself included, which means that I feel hope every single day. And getting out and growing with my hands in the soil only boosts that hope. So I think we've got a strong future ahead, but we need active citizens in that.
Yeah.
And we need disruptors and people to say, actually, I think you're wrong, government, or I think you're wrong, policymaker. This is how we should do it. And that all comes from the land. So yeah, I feel hopeful. I feel loud. I feel more brazen now that I've turned 30. So let's go ahead and change everything.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that,
Cheers to
babes.
that.
Fuck
Nice.
yeah.
So
Actually banging that.
it is a good sandwich. What have you got?
So, roast chicken, sun-dried tomato, unconventional edition, ready salted crisps.
No, I'm all there for the ready salted crisps.
I love a crisp edition. Should have gone with salt and vinegar maybe. Bit bland.